There we go. Okay. All right, ladies, and gentlemen, so we are going to hop right into having our wonderful speaker who has actually been so kind to offer to speak with us today about how shifts happen. But before we go into that, I just wanted to take one quick comment. Did anybody get value from the breakout rooms? Anybody? Let me see.
Yeah.
I saw Audra's hand go up first and it's still up. So I'm gonna unmute you, Audra, and I'm just gonna ask you, can you share about what value you got out of us getting into the breakout rooms?
Absolutely. Well, oh my goodness, I have a whole page full of notes. So I met some fabulous folks who are ahead of the game and have talked about their experience and what they're doing, and offered tips on how I could get stuff out of my head and onto the page or into the world, and share my gifts. They gave us a bunch of websites on how to transcribe, like talk into something and it transcribes for you. Other ways to get to a podcast, you know, have somebody do the back end for you. I also set up a couple coffee dates. So it was great. Looking forward to it more. Thank you.
Well, Audra, were you ever in the same group as Marianne? Marianne Pack.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because I know, and I did post in our Facebook group, Marianne had a question, which I'm very sure that the answers exist within the group. She wanted to talk to some people who are already doing their own podcasts just to get some feedback about how to go about doing her own and to get some ideas. So if you've come up with some ideas through the groups that you've been in, might I invite you to maybe connect with Marianne, and maybe both of you can brainstorm on that and see how to make that happen in an aligned way. So thank you so much for sharing, Audra. And now, the moment we have all been waiting for, I would like to invite Wendy to come and tell us exactly how to transform our lives and get those shifts to happen the way they're supposed to. Wendy.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I totally connected with everything that Pam was talking about early on, just before we were getting started today, when she was talking about being a speaker and how even when you're good at it and you love it, you get nervous, right? The spit dries up in my mouth. It happens to everybody, and I love speaking. As a matter of fact, I do it as the primary way of growing my business and of sort of giving back to the world. I have a podcast, I speak, and still I get nervous. So if you're growing your business and you know somebody like Pam who can help you put yourself out there and sort of get over the things that hold you back, absolutely take advantage of that. So we're talking today about how shift happens, the naked truth about transforming your life. And Dr. Davia was saying that when she and I were talking about topics, we were running through the things that I thought that I could do in 30 minutes with you all and still make it conversational. And she was like, no. And of course, this is my signature talk. And usually I deliver this as a 60-minute talk with a 30-minute Q&A after. So we're really going to streamline today. We're going to hit only the hot points about this because I want you all to be able to take something away that you can absolutely use right away. And then if you want more and have questions, there are a million ways to get in touch with me. But we're going to do this a little less as a talk and more like a conversation. So we do have a little bit of a bigger group. I can't see you all. So when I ask a question, or if you have a question, go ahead and pop it in the chat. I have my chat window open so that I can see it. And when I ask a question, if you would like to have your voice heard in the room and we want that, just go ahead and pop me in the chat and I'll call on you. Cool? I hope so. So picture this. The clock reads 3:30 a.m. and you are awake. And this is that moment, right? Where the thoughts start cycling through your head. And they might just be runaway thoughts that are keeping you awake. But often they are lists of things that you need to do tomorrow. They are ruminations about things that haven't gone so well in the past, or even just the day before you turned the lights out. They are fears about what might be coming your way or what you need to get done. And we're awake, right? And then what happens? Eventually, hopefully, you fall asleep, the alarm goes off, you get up, you figure it out. You figure it out and you get on with your day. We don't stay in that 3 a.m. stuck spot. We figure it out. But what we don't often figure out, what we don't often get to, is that someday stuff, that big stuff, that heart stuff that you want so badly, but it's so big. And when I use the term big, I don't necessarily mean that it needs to be enormous in scope. I mean that it's big to you. It is so meaningful to you that that's the thing that we often don't find the time for. That's the thing that we're often held back from. And we tell ourselves, someday I'm going to find the time. Someday I'm going to have the right credentials or the right, education or the right experience, and I'll be ready to do it. Someday I'll be able to afford to take the time to make this change. But then what happens? Every time you're on the cusp, right? That cusp of, oh, here comes someday. I think I'm gonna, boom. Oh, hello, COVID-19 pandemic. Oh, hello, my daughter is pregnant and now I'm gonna be a grandmother. That's not the case here. My daughter's 18. My mother would go, toot. But hello, some crazy thing that happens to disrupt our life, and we go on figuring it out and moving on with our life. And this piece, this heart work that we're drawn to, we never find the time for. Right? Does that make sense? So I'm going to ask a question, and you can post me if you want to answer it live, and you can just put the answer in the chat. What do you think is getting in the way of you leaning in to that heart work, that big work? Fear, right on, Lisa. What else? Anybody else? What do you think gets in your way? We think we have more time, our own minds. We get into our heads. I hear that a lot.
There are multiple reasons. There isn't usually any one reason. And as you've already said, it's life.
Yeah.
And sometimes what you're trying to figure out may be so much not what is happening to you now, that it's just not, you're not able to deal with it and take care of the other things in your life, which are equally important and valid important things.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing, it's like a treadmill that you never get off of.
The hamster wheel. Thank you, Alice. It's so true. I'm seeing in the chat clarity, exaggerating or feeling overwhelmed about how much time it's going to take. My thoughts and my time and decisions, self-doubt, limiting beliefs hold us back. Oh, right on. All of these things are 100% true. Okay, they are 100% true. And there's something that lives beneath all of that that gets in the way for all of us, and it is belief. What you believe is what you become. What you believe is what you will create. 100% of the time, across the board, what you believe. And I'm not going to do slides with you, but I'm going to share this one image because I think it's going to be helpful to explain this. Can everybody see that? Can see my screen? Okay. So we get caught in this loop. Okay, remember when I said we wake up and whoa, there we go, we figure it out. We're rock stars, we get on with our day. That's why we're here. We're good at what we do. We're survivors, we're achievers. But for this big thing that we can't seem to get done, we try to figure it out in the same way. We think about it, that's the figuring out part. And then we have an emotion about it, right? We have a feeling about it. We're excited or we're afraid or any other list of feelings. And that emotion leads to the actions or action or inaction that we do or don't take. And of course, those actions lead to our outcomes. Okay, every single time, that's the way it works. Our thought leads to emotion, leads to an action, leads to an outcome. But what happens is when those outcomes are based, when the thoughts are based on an underlying belief about yourself and about the world around you, that's leading the thoughts and you're not aware of it. And so what happens in this case, even though you tried to do it differently this time, even though you tried to take a different kind of action, it's leading to the similar kind of outcome. And what does that do? It further feeds the belief, oh, it's not really time for this. Oh, I'm not really the right person for this. Oh, this thing isn't for me. And then that feeds the thought, and we keep trying harder, right? We try harder or we buy harder, right? Oh, maybe if I buy all new exercise equipment, then I'll start working out every day. We try harder or we buy harder, and we think it's going to be different this time. And then we're shocked and frustrated and disillusioned when we get the same results from a new set of tactics. Why? Because the belief was never even looked at, because we're not clear about the belief that's driving that. So the naked truth about how to change your life so that it sticks is to change what you believe. Okay? And here's the thing. You cannot bibbity-bobbity-boo that. All right? I'm sorry, my friends, but there is no way to say, okay, I used to believe this about myself and now I believe this. Because that little brain of yours, and I'm not going to go into the whole way your brain works and all of that, because your eyes will roll back in your head, and Dr. DeVita will say that is enough, you're way out of time. But the way that your brain works will not allow for it. You need to build a body of evidence first. And in order to build a new body of evidence to feed this new belief, you need to do things differently. And so I'm going to give you 3 steps, and I'm going to ask you some questions along the way. And these are the 3 steps, these 3 things. If you take these 3 steps, now each of these are a workshop on their own. Okay, there's a lot to these. And I'm just going to give you one piece of each one of these steps. But if you were to just do those regularly, repetitively, I promise they will start to shift your belief. And as you shift your belief, you're going to change your life. Whatever part of that your life it is that needs or wants changing. Make sense? Okay. So these 3 steps are simple. They are seeing, owning, and acting. Seeing means you need to look at yourself and the world in a completely new way. Owning means owning your shit, excuse my language, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And acting means taking intentional action every day. And when we do it in this order, we're starting to shift belief. So now, these actions that you're taking start to lead to different outcomes. And as you create slightly different outcomes, you're building a new body of evidence for you to believe in. And once you believe something new about yourself and about the world around you, that, my friends, is what you begin to create. Okay, so we're going to talk about each one. And Dr. Davia, if I start running out of time, give me the rush, and I'll move quickly. So seeing, how do you see the world and yourself differently than you have in the past? This is a really intense one, and there are so many different ways that we can talk about this, but I'm going to give you the one key, and that's every single thing in your life is a choice. Every single thing that you do is your choice. So I'd like to open it up to the room and ask, you can answer this in one of two ways. Either what's something you think you have to do that is not your choice. And if you put breathing, I'll let you have that one. But any other one, prepare to be coached. And I encourage you, if you've got a yeah, but this is something I have to do, put it in the text. Or just what's something that you have to do that's weighing you down. Okay, Lisa, make more money. We think we have to make more money, or we think we have to make a certain amount of money. No, you don't. You absolutely don't. You don't need to make any money at all. There are tons of people alive on this planet that do not make 1 cent a year, ever in their lifetime. And I'm not talking about people who live in some undiscovered tribe where they don't have money yet. I'm talking about people right here in this country. We choose to earn a living. We choose to set goals that say, I want more money. And we choose that because of the way, what we want to have happen in our life. Okay, I work with a ton of parents and they say, I have to feed my kids. No, you don't. You absolutely don't. There are people on this planet who choose not to feed their children. You choose to feed your children. Why? Because you love them. Right? Because it's your value to parent in that way. Household maintenance. Yeah. There are things that if we don't do them, the house is going to fall apart. But you're still choosing to do it. It's your choice. You can let the house fall apart. Lots of houses do. And there's a lot of power in this choice. Because the moment you switch from I have to, to I choose to, your energy goes up. Okay? And there's another little layer to this. I'm going to say this fast so we don't run out of time, but it's important. I choose to needs to be in alignment with what you truly value, not what you're supposed to value, not what you're supposed to choose. What you choose to do needs to be in alignment with your values. And when it is, much easier to get done. Okay, so starting to see yourself and the world differently, notice that every single thing that you do is a choice. Martha Beck has a great little tool for those choices that we wish we didn't have to make. I don't want to take up the trash on a rainy day. but I'm going to choose to do it because I don't want my house to stink, right? But I still don't want to do it. It still doesn't make me feel energized that I make that choice. When we get into little tasks like that, we can bag it, meaning I'm not going to do it at all, which would be unacceptable to me when it comes to trash. But some things we can just cross off our lists. Not going to do it. It's out of alignment. We can barter it. I'm going to get my son to do it. Okay? Or we can better it. I'm going to keep an umbrella and my rain boots right by the door so that it feels quick and easy and doesn't feel like a big to-do. I'm going to make it better for myself. But simply understanding, always a choice. Every single thing that you do is to choose. Alice is asking, if one chooses not to make money, how does one live? Well, they live in homeless shelters or on the streets or with their parents or their children, or their couch surf from one place to another. Or they live in a tent and fish off the grid. We choose to make money because that is not the life that any of us want. So by framing things as a choice, we empower ourselves and we start to shift that belief in our minds. Okay, the number 2 thing is owning. This is, again, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so we have to own. And I'm going to say this actually first before we get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. You are all too eager, I guarantee you, to own everything that's wrong with you. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about self-blame. I'm not talking about self-judgment. Heck no, not useful. Not useful at all. Okay? When I say owning the ugly, I mean the end of the sentence, I'm afraid, and so when I'm afraid, that's the stuff you need to own. Not I'm a terrible person or I'm not good at this. That's just self-blame and self-judgment. Those are the things we let go of. Okay. You also have to own what you're good at. We have a culture that says it's great to be humble. And it is. Humility is a wonderful quality. But it's also great to be proud of yourself. I love that Dr. Davia said, who's got something to brag about? Who's got something to celebrate today? If you're going to shift those beliefs, you have to own what you're proud of. And I'm going to ask you to frame it in your mind in that way. Because you know that little voice that tells you all the things that are wrong with you? That little voice that tells you, uh-oh, don't do that because it's not going to go well. For some reason, the little voice doesn't pop up when we say, I'm proud. That little voice doesn't try to dispute it when we say, I'm proud of myself. So you frame those things that you're good at by saying, I'm proud of myself, and own it. And here's the one we're going to talk about today. You have to own what you want. Not what you're supposed to want. I'm supposed to want a certain amount of money in my bank account. I'm supposed to want a certain kind of house. I'm supposed to want a certain kind of relationship. No. You have to own the things that you want. If they're tiny, meaning I just want a simpler life. I don't want to work all these hours and worry about money. I want a simpler life. Or whether they're huge, I want my play produced on Broadway. If you yearn for it, if it is that heart work for you, you need to own that you want it. So I'm going to ask a scary question right now. Who'd like to tell us what you want? Who's ready to own it? I want to be in flow more of the time. That's a whole other workshop though, my friend. Yeah, what do you want? I want to hear you own it. I guarantee you, if I asked you what your stumbling blocks were, this whole thing would have been like,
Hi, Wendy.
hi.
Julie Clark here. Yes, I want a happy, healthy life. And I'm finding that I really like these Zoom calls a lot because they're so convenient. I would not have said that pre-COVID. I would not have even thought that. So I love how you say it's a choice because that's what I believe in every day anyway, better choices. And every single thing is a choice. I agree. So I want to stay healthy and happy. And I like this gentler, quieter life that I've been pushed into at the moment. And again, it's my choice to enjoy it and like it while I'm here. And when I have the choice not to be here anymore, I'm sure I'll like that too. So, you know, I love your 3 steps to choices. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Julie. Sharon wants a global reach to improving women's being. Yeah, global, Sharon. Own it. I'm owning being a guiding perspective shifts, a GPS. Oh, I love that. To personal freedom and self-empowerment. Right on, D. Right? Own these things that you want because you're going to use them as a compass. Okay. Now, if you had said, I really want a beach house, that's cool. I want one. I do. Well, I would love to have a beach house. But that's a means to the end. We want to go, when those things pop up as things that you want, those are symptoms of what you really want. Good symptoms, right? Let's get the LPL beach house. Yeah. They're good symptoms of what you want, but what you really want is global reach. And then the success comes from that. What you really want is to build a business where you're helping all the time, where you feel like you're doing your heart work. What you really want is to be a GPS to personal freedom. And all of those other goals flow easily from that when you own what you want. Because the next thing, the number 3 thing that we're going to talk about here is taking action. Because we can visualize, and I'm going to tell you what, it works. Okay, and we can meditate, and I'm going to tell you what, it works. And journal and all of these things are so important and they work, but not unless you act. In order to create change, in order to build on this growth. So far, the stuff that we're talking about is growth. You're growing a new belief system. You're growing as a human. In order to create change in the external world, in your external world, from that growth, you must act. And you must act intentionally every single day. Okay? Here's the easy thing though. The way you've been acting is completely out of line. Okay? You have been trying way too hard. You have been working way too hard. You have been pushing way too hard. And that kind of action doesn't get you anywhere. That is the hamster wheel. Okay? So the kinds of actions that I'm talking about here have 3 things in common. First, they absolutely must be aligned. Okay, and by aligned, I mean they need to be aligned with those values. They need to be aligned with what you really want, with this big thing, that heart work that you really, really want. They need to be aligned with that best version of yourself. The next thing, they need to be clear. You need to choose what you're working on at the moment. Get crystal clear on it. Because if it's just out there in the ether, you're going to be spinning your wheels and you're going to be jumping from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other. That shiny object syndrome. Clear, this is the thing that I'm working on right now. And the number 3 thing is those actions need to be tiny. Tiny. You can write a book, you can write a novel 10 minutes a day. Okay. And I'm not saying that all of the action that you take is going to take only 10 minutes, but it's imperative, especially when you're starting, that you whittle these actions down to something that is completely clear and completely tiny. So many people that I work with say, I'm a procrastinator. No, you're not. You're just not clear at what action to take. And if you are clear, the one that you think you're clear on is way too big. Whittle it down to the smallest possible piece and do that. And allow it to build on itself. So if you do these 3 things, see the world a little differently, everything is a choice. Own what you truly want and take tiny action on it every single day. And I'm going to close now because I know my time is up, but while I'm closing, please go and put in the chat anything that you're willing to take action on this week, a tiny thing. Those 3 things, and you do it regularly, repetitively, because remember, you're building new neural pathways in this database, and that takes radical repetition. You will change your beliefs, and those beliefs will change your life. So I'm going to pop my stuff into the chat. There are tons of ways to get in touch with me and to find and to get more of this kind of information and programs that I run. They're all on my website. They're all in my, you can reach out via email or phone number. I'm going to pop it in the chat right now. And I encourage you guys to all reach out. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for having me here with you today.
Thank you, Wendy. That was really, really lovely. Thank you so much. I felt like you're just saying all the things that I'm always thinking. It's so great. I remember when we sat down to organize what your talk was going to be today, and you're saying all the things, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, I talk about that too. And oh yes, I talk about that too. That's so great. I love, love, love what you're talking about. I love what I think it's just a great opportunity for us to have to be able to connect with you and all what you're doing. So I'm gonna just ask a question. Anybody got value from what Wendy was sharing with us today? Pat, I saw your hand go up first, so I'm gonna unmute you. And would you share? Would you feel comfortable sharing?
Yes, I feel that Wendy's approach helped us look at the big picture of one goal and then looking at the smaller steps that are doable, that are manageable, rather than this big elephant in the room that we say we can't deal with. But if we choose to chip away each day at the small accomplishments, then we're moving along that line toward the target. And she presented it that my choices can help me realize my goals.
Yes.
Thank you, Wendy.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pat. You know, I love how you put it, Wendy, that we think that we have to do these things, but really, we really need to consider that the things that we are doing, we do have a choice. And that is so empowering when we think of it that way. Ina, did you have your hand up earlier saying that you found value from the presentation? I feel like I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was going, yes.
Okay. Did you want to share?
Sure. You know, I am a huge, vision action step person. And I guess today what I heard was that, it doesn't have to be these great leaps and bounds. It can be, one small step at a time. And I don't have to overachieve.
I especially love that. Thanks, Ina. I especially love that you said that, Wendy. And I think it was at one of Ina's meetings that I actually met you, and you were your topic on that day was talking about the next small step that you could take to advance your life. And that was so meaningful to me because I have a tendency to be able to, and it's a blessing really, but it can also be an area where I hang up on, where I see this really, really big picture. I can look at something, and it's helpful for my patients and my clients because I can look at something and see way ahead of what it's going to be in the future. But then sometimes when I see that big picture for myself, it can be scary, it can be intimidating, it can be daunting. And so what I have been working on is really just looking at what's my next step and what's the step after that, and not getting too caught up with all the big picture things, because that can really cause us to slow down too much. I'll take one more. If anybody is interested, you could just put your hand up. Donna, I thought I saw your hand up earlier. I just unmuted you. What was valuable for you? Good to see you.
It's good to be here as well and to see everyone. I agree with Wendy on so many facets of what you said. And someone said to me years ago, chunk it down. And yours is the same thing. It doesn't have to be big, something small, but owning it and the belief. And a lot of times we can lose sight of what we truly believe in order to fulfill a function. And it's always just good to hear and have it be resaid in a different way. You bring something else true to yourself that you heard. Like for me, chunk it down. You said take a tiny step. The same thing. It's just hearing it again. And I heard that 20 years ago. So yeah, but it's all valuable. All really great, smart stuff that, albeit I'm home now out of the working realm, but still working every day on something. So thank you.
I love that. Thanks, Donna. Thanks so much for sharing, and glad to see you and that you were able to make it here. I'm just gonna, before we wrap this up, I just wanted to share this, Wendy, because I think you will find it very interesting. Can everybody see my artwork here? So if you notice, I was making a model and it doesn't look anywhere near as beautiful as the one that you made, Wendy, but you notice the number one thing at the top is belief, right? It's what you believe. And I think that's so, we are so on the same page. It's just
clicked right away.
It's just amazing. I loved your talk so much, and I look forward to you continuing to be a part of the group and just sharing your wisdom with everybody. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this meeting, but before we do, I wanted to say that our next meeting is going to be June 15th. I'm reasonably certain that it's going to be a Zoom meeting, even though we are rolling out into the state opening up. We're opening up in kind of a phased way. And so I am thinking that at least for the June meeting, we're still gonna be virtual. It's gonna be June 15th at 12:30, so mark your calendars. I mentioned before, if you are not getting our emails that remind you about when our next meeting is, just hop on over to our webpage, and that's ladiespowerlunch.com, and you can sign up for our emails there. I promise my intention is never to spam us, but I would like to make sure that we get all the information. And one last thing before we go, one of our members, Ina, she has an event that is upcoming that I think is interesting and important for all of us to know about. So I'm going to unmute her. And Ina, would you tell us about eWomen Summit?
Sure. So we are hosting our founder and CEO, Sandra Yancey, and this is our 11th annual Women's Success Summit. So last year we were in person and we sold out at 120 participants. This year they are going to be doing it via Zoom, but still live, and Sandra will be actually networking with us. As well as the creative director, Brianna Day, will be sharing social media. And then it is sponsored by Dell. So Dell will also be sharing some entrepreneurial tips for us. And Sandra is actually going to be sharing for the first time how to scale your business for more profitability. And just how to step into that CEO position or mindset when, you know, even though you might be just a solopreneur. So yeah. And so again, that is on Wednesday, May 27th. It's a 5-hour event. We do have breaks. It's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I'm happy to give more information